Okay, let's do this theory. What is a callback function and how does it work with the for each method? In JavaScript, this is not a fallback, this is a callback. Fallback, you know what a fallback is? A value you give it in case, just in case something, the first value doesn't work, then the fallback is gonna work. It's gonna be working. Anyways, fallback. Anyways, let's do this. A callback function is a function that is passed as an argument. In JavaScript, a callback function is a function that is passed as an argument to another function. It's passed as an argument to another function. As an argument. Oh shit. So that the other function can invoke it at a specific point. This concept is fundamental to understanding many aspects of JavaScript, including how the for each method works. Let's start by understanding what a callback function is in a simple context. Imagine you have a function, and within the function you want to do something multiple times. Instead of writing all code in one big function, you can pass a second function, the callback, to be executed whenever you need that specific something to be done. This allows for more flexible and modular code. Now let's introduce the for each method. For each is a built-in method for arrays in JavaScript. It allows you to iterate over each element in an array and perform an operation on each element. The operation you want to perform is defined in a callback function that you provide to for each. This is interesting and actually solves a lot of problems. Here is an example of how for each works with a callback function. I didn't even know that this exists. Okay, let numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, numbers for each function number. Dot for each function number. Console log number star or multi or whatever star 2. Numbers. So I got these numbers. So this numbers refers to the array above it, which is then you're gonna type dot for each, which means for every single value of this array, function number, and then we go number. Okay, console log number. Okay, 2, 4. So you see, this is 1 and 2, 2, 2 and 2, 2 and 2, 4, 3 and 2, 6. Okay. In this example, we have an array of numbers. We use the for each method on this array, and we provide a callback function as an argument to for each. This callback function takes one parameter, which represents each element in the array. The for each method will call this fallback function once for each element in the array. The callback function in this case multiplies each number by 2 and logs the result. So when this code runs, it will output. Okay, it's important to understand that the callback function is called once for each element in the array in order for each takes care of the looping for you, so you don't have to write a for loop yourself. You can also use an arrow function as the callback, which can make your code even more concise. I hate arrow functions because I don't like to memorize things. That's how it's done anyway. Okay, so this is the what do you call it? The argument, and this equal, and the arrow. It's referring to what this function is going to do. So this is what an arrow function is. This this does exactly. It's the same as usual function, but it's written in easy way. You're probably going to see it in code more often, more. So if you want to practice it, do it yourself. I don't need to. Anyways, this does exactly the same thing as the previous example, but with less code. The callback function in for each can actually take up to three arguments. And for each can actually take up to three arguments. The current element the current element can actually take up to three arguments. The current element, the index of the current element, and the array that for each was called upon. Let numbers for each, number index array, okay, console log element number is at index in array. Okay, I get it. Nice. This would log information about each element, its index, and the original array. Understanding callback functions and methods like for each is important as you progress in JavaScript. They form the basis for many more advanced concepts in the language, particularly in asynchronous programming, which you will learn about in future lessons. What is the primary purpose of callback function in JavaScript? They run another piece of code at a later point. Right, okay. How many times does the callback function for each get called? Once. Once for each element in the array. I guess. Okay. Which of the following is not a parameter that can be passed to the callback? Not current element, the index, the array, the length. Okay. Oh my god. If I had money, I would, but I don't. Unemployed. Freak. But I'll make sure I do once I make some money out of this. What are higher? Because I really appreciate what they have done, although it's not necessary according to them, but I want to help. What are higher order functions? Higher order functions are a powerful concept in JavaScript that can significantly enhance your coding abilities and make your code more flexible and reusable. In essence, a higher order function is a function that either takes one or more functions as arguments, return a function, or both. To understand higher order functions, let's first consider functions as first class citizens in JavaScript. This means that functions can be treated like any other value. They can be assigned to variables, passed as arguments to other functions, and returned from functions. This flexibility is what enables the creation and use of higher order functions. One common use of higher order functions is to abstract away complex operations. One common use of higher order functions is to abstract away complex operations. For example, you might have a function that performs a specific operation on each element of an array. Instead of writing separate functions for different operations, oh my god, you might have a function that performs a specific operation on each element of an array. Instead of writing separate functions for different operations, you can create a higher order function that takes the operation as an argument. This allows you to use the same function structure with different behaviors. Here is an example to illustrate this concept. Function operate an array. Array operation. Let result, okay. Let or result push return result function. That's another function. Double x. Okay. Let numbers. Let numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. It's numbers. Let double numbers equal operate on an array. Numbers and double function double and double. Okay. Operation. Operation. ARR. Do you get this? So this is the double, which is this one. So what we plug in here is double, and then this x is going to be ARRI. So it's going to be x. Yeah, nice. Nice, okay. In this example, operate an array on array is a higher order function, takes an array and the function operation as arguments. It then applies the operation to each element of the array. The double function is passed as an argument to operate on array, demonstrating how functions can be used as values. Higher order functions can also return functions. This is particularly useful for creating specialized functions based on more general ones. This concept is often referred to as function factories. Factorial. Here's an example. Can also return functions for creating specialized functions based on more general ones. Okay, function, multiply, factor, return, function, number, return, number. Okay, factor. Let's double, let treble. I have been through this actually before. Yes, we've gone through the. If I don't know if I did some kind of fucking stream on it or not, but we did something similar to this. Function inside a function. Yes, I think we did return. Okay. In this case, multiply by is a higher order function that returns a new function. This new function is specialized based on the factor passed to multiply by. This allows us to create custom multiplication functions with ease. Higher order functions are not just a theoretical concept, they're widely used in JavaScript. Okay. Many built-in methods for they're widely used. Okay. Many built-in methods for arrays in JavaScript, such as map. Now we're new into something. Map, filter, and reduce are higher order functions. These methods take a function as an argument and apply it to the elements of the array in various ways. You will learn more about these methods in future lessons. The use of higher order functions can lead to more declarative and easier to understand code. Instead of describing step by step how to accomplish a task, imperative programming, higher higher order functions allow you to describe what you want to accomplish. Declarative programming. This can make your code more readable and maintainable. As you continue to work with JavaScript, you will encounter and use higher order functions frequently. They are a key part of functional programming in JavaScript and are essential for writing clean, efficient, and flexible code. Understanding and utilizing higher order functions will significantly enhance your ability to write sophisticated and elegant JavaScript programs. Okay, Brenda, accomplished. This can make. Okay. Which of the following best describes that? Takes alone. That takes another function. As a function. Okay. What is a key benefit of using higher order functions? They always make code run fast. For okay. In the context of higher order functions, what does it mean for functions to be first class citizens in JavaScript? Nope. Nope. Functions can treat it be like any other value, including being passed as an argument. Yep. Okay. What is the map method? How does it work? If you have been following along on the previous streams, live streams, at the end of every code session, when it passes, I pass my code to Claude and see if Claude has got some fucking notes on my code. And it usually, uh, not usually, a few times, a lot of, more than a few times, the map method was mentioned. Why don't you use the map method? But I was like, we didn't came across it. I don't like to use something that I didn't come across it as I progress. I'm sure that I'm there, but this is the map that was mentioned by Claude in a way to make or to make my code much better. The map method is a powerful and widely used function in JavaScript that operates on arrays. It is designed to create a new array by applying a given function to each element of the original array. This method does not modify the original array, but instead returns a new array containing the results of the function applied to each element. Here is an example of using map method on an array of numbers. Const double numbers that map num, and then after the num we got the arrow num multiplied by 2. Okay, numbers double. Yep, without you map things to create a new array. To create a new array where each number is doubled. To create a new array where each number is doubled, we are using the map method. To create a new array where each number is doubled, we are using the map method. The map method accepts a callback function where the function is called on every single element in the array. The map method the map method accepts a callback function where the function is called on every single element in the array. It's called on every single element in the array. Okay. Okay, in this case, each number in the array will be multiplied by 2. The result will be a new array of numbers. The callback function can accept up to 3 arguments. The first argument is the current element being processed. It's actually even much more useful in functions. This is already a function, but we already can use functions inside functions. The dot map can be useful inside functions as well. Because oh my god, how you have to, you know, sometimes go over things. Dot map element. Okay. Okay. The second argument is the index of the current element being processed. Okay. Element 3, index 0. But there's only index. What does that mean? There's not index of nothing, just index element, just index. That'll be it. Wait, wait. We didn't call it anyway, but because of the console log, we didn't call it. If we call here number, am I correct? We call numbers. Alright, let's check this out. Let's call numbers. Console.log numbers. You see? 3 and 2, 6. 4 and 2, 8. 5 and 10. 5 and 2, 10. Yep. So the third argument is the array where map is being called on. So array. Okay. God damn it. God damn it. This map is very fucking cool. Okay, do you know have you ever thought about how they did this? Because this is not a built-in. So, or it is, the dot map itself is a built-in, but they did it using actually building the dot map. You know how this works? Anyways, I don't know how to explain it, but the dot map was done like it was explained as a function, as a higher order function. And they made this explicit arguments. So that's why they are in there. Anyways. Okay. Understanding and effectively using the map method can significantly improve your ability to work with arrays in JavaScript. Future lessons we will dive deeper into more advanced uses of map and explore how it can be a powerful tool for building dynamic and efficient programs. What does the map method return? No, it's a new array. New array. Array, yes. How many arguments can the callback function in map receive? How many arguments can the callback function in map receive? 3. The index and the original. Okay, which of the following is not a correct use of the map method? Converting an array of strings to uppercase. We can do that. Yeah. Doubling each number in an array. Removing specific elements from an array. Extracting a property from each object in an array. Actually, I would go with to uppercase. I think there is a built-in. Really? Where did you go? Removing specific elements? Yeah. Because splice. That's gonna be returning a new. I don't know. That's how I thought about it. It's gonna be returning a new array. The filter method is used to create a new array. Filter method is used to create a new array with elements that pass a specific test, making it useful for selectively extracting items based on criteria. The filter method is used to create a new array with elements that pass a specific test, making it useful for selectively extracting items based on criteria. Making it useful to extract. In this example, we are using the filter method to create a new array of only even numbers. Const numbers, const even numbers that filter num. Okay, okay. It filters exactly. Okay. In this example, the filter method applies a callback function to each element of the numbers array. The callback checks whether each number is even using the remainder operator. If the number is even, the function returns true. If the number is even, the function returns true. If the number is even, the function returns true. And that number is included in the new array. That's true. Remainders with if you've been following along in the MIT computer science math, we've been through even numbers and odd numbers, and we came to conclude, not came we come to conclude, the definition of an even number that the remainder was gonna be zero, and the definition of the odd number that the remainder is gonna be one. Anyways, the function returns true. If the number is even, the function returns true, and that number is included in the new array. If it's odd, the function returns false, and that number is excluded. Because you see here the remainder of 2 equal 0, that's even. If it was 1, then we got a problem. That will be odd. Yeah, do you want to check it? Do you want to check it? See what happened. If we change this to one. Odd numbers 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. You got this. Okay. Okay. Just like the map method, the callback function for the filter method accepts the same three arguments, the current element being processed, the index, and the array. It's important to note that if no elements pass the test, the filter method returns an empty array. Okay, filter is incredibly versatile and can be used in many scenarios. You can use it to remove null or undefined values. You can use it to remove null or undefined values. That's incredible. You know how I used to do that? Several loops. Anyways, values from an array. Okay. To filter objects based on their properties or to implement search functionality. Here's an example of using the filter method to return an array of objects for individuals younger than 30 years old. Const developers name. Okay. Const young people equal developers, which is this. Dot filter person dot age. So the person is gonna be the object itself. This is person. Dot age. The age is this one. The age is the second. What do you call it? Parameter. I don't know. I forgot what you call it in objects, but this is as it called. Notice the comma. Okay. That age less than 30. Then young people are gonna be and it returned the full object, actually an array of the full object, not only the age. So age 25, this is interesting. And age 25, David. This is very fucking useful. Throughout the rest of this curriculum, you will be using map and filter methods very frequently, so building familiarity with them will not only streamline your coding process, but also help you write cleaner and more efficient code. What does the filter method return if no elements in the array pass the test? What does the filter method return if no elements in the array pass the test? Empty array. Which of the following best describes the purpose of a callback function in the filter method? Transform each element. Determine which element should new array. To sort the elements. Callback not forward. To sort the elements. To calculate a single value from all. What is this one? Transform each element in the array. Filter. Determine which elements should be included in the arrays. How does the filter method affect the original array it's called on? Divides the original array it placed moves. Doesn't affect it. It sorts the original array. It doesn't affect the original array at all, I think. It's, yeah. Yep. That'd be much useful. What is the reduce method and how does it work? You know, if you mutuate meaning change. Anyways, mutuate meaning making a change in something. Anyways, mutuate the original array. It's gonna be a problem if you wanna repeat the process because there's gonna be no array. Okay, or less, or less elements in an array. The reduce method. Okay, what is the reduce method and how does it work? The reduce method is a function in JavaScript that allows you to process an array and condense it into a single value. Where have you heard condense before? In civil engineering, have you studied not hydrology but rather I think it's also something G hyper hy, hy, hydrology. That's my background in civil engineering. What is it called? Not hydrology. Hydrology was the first course. The second course, hydraulics. Hydraulics. In hydraulics, you will be familiar with condense it into a single value. The single value can be a number, a string, an object, or even another array. This single value can be a number, a string, an object, or even another array. Uh, this single value can be a number, string, an object, or even another array. And condense it into a single value. Let's check. Condense كثافة كثافة makes something shorter, actually smaller or denser. It is denser. That's why I was confused. It's denser, meaning filled with much more, reducing text or speech packing items into less space, turning a gas into a liquid. Okay. Condense in hydrology. Condensation. In hydrology, the physical process where invisible water vapor, gas in the air, cools and changes back into liquid water droplets, which is contained in hydrology. What about in hydraulics? Hydraulics. Okay. Hydraulics. In hydraulics, condense usually refers to fluid compression, volume reduction under extreme pressure, water condensation, moisture buildup inside oil reservoirs, or hydraulic condensation, and an endoneutic root filling technique. This is for your, what do we call it? Why do I have Python here? What's wrong? How did I get all this? Where am I at? I think I'm here, but how did I get here? How did I get this? And this Python. Did it open already? Did it open tabs from an old? Anyways, let's go back. Condense it into a single value. The single value can be a number, a string, an object, or even another array. It's called reduce because it reduces an array to a single output. While it might seem complicated at first, understanding reduce can greatly simplify your code in many situations. At its core, reduce works by applying a function to each element in the array. In order, passing the result of each calculation on the next, this function is often called the reducer function. This function is often called the reducer function. The reducer function takes two main parameters. The reducer function takes two main parameters. At its core, reduce works by applying a function to each element in the array, in order passing the result of each calculation into the next. This function is often called the reducer function. The reducer function takes two main parameters, an accumulator and the current value. An accumulator and the current value. The accumulator is where you store the running result of your operations. The reducer function takes two main parameters. An accumulator and the current value. An accumulator and the current value. The accumulator is where you store the running result of your operations. An accumulator and the current value. The accumulator is where you store the running result of your operations. The accumulator is where you store the running result of your operation. And the current value is the array element being processed. Let's take a look at an example to illustrate how reduce works. Const numbers, const sum equal numbers dot reduce. Okay. Accumulator current value gives accumulator plus current value and 0. What does this 0 mean? So this function takes two main parameters. The accumulator is where you store the running result of your operations. So you know what this 15 is? Is 5 plus 4, which is 9, plus 1, which is 10, plus 2, plus 3, which is 15. So that's how, so what it does, the accumulator is store the first result. So we got 1 as a current value, and the accumulator, like this is 0 fallback, I think, for the accumulator. So it's gonna be it's gonna be 1. So we got 1. And then the accumulator will be 1. The accumulator will be what? 1. And the current value will be 2. So it's adding. Okay, you get it? In this example, we're using reduce to get the sum of all numbers in the array. Sorry. Oh my God. In this example, we're using reduce to get. In this example, we're using reduce to get the sum of all the numbers in the array. Reduce function takes the accumulator, which starts at 0, as specified by the second argument to reduce. The reducer function takes an accumulator which starts as 0, the fallback 0 as specified by the second argument to reduce. Okay. And adds each number to it. The result of each addition becomes the new accumulator or the next iteration. The reduce method can also take an initial value as its second argument. This is the value that the accumulator starts with. In the example above, we set it to 0 if you don't provide an initial value. Reduce will use the first element of the array as the initial accumulator and start the process from the second element. One of the great things about reduce is its flexibility. Because you define the reducer function, because you define the reducer function, because you define the reducer function, you have complete control over how the array is processed. Because you define the reducer, because you define the reducer function, you because you define the reducer function, you have complete control over how the array is processed and what kind of result you want to produce. This makes reduce extremely powerful but can be a bit challenging to understand at first. Because you define the reducer function, you have complete control over how the array is processed. With practice, you will get the hang of working with reduce method. What does the reduce method do to an array? Sort elements, transforms element, removes elements from the array, increase elements. I don't think it's increasing, it's decreasing. Transforms the array into one single value, I think. Okay. In the case we use in the reduce method, what is the accumulator? I noticed in JavaScript the most used type of lists, let's say, is the array. It's not objects. Array is more used than objects. In the reduce method, what is the accumulator? Or at least in the labs that I did. Usually the objects come inside arrays. Arrays are easy to handle. In the reduce method, what is the accumulator? Easier. Not easier. The object is easy as well, but arrays are easier, and you can do much more stuff with arrays than you can do to an object. Okay. In the reduce method, what is the accumulator? The final result of the reduce operation. No, yes, I think it is. The current element being processed. Very valid. The running result of reduce. Yep. What happens if you don't provide an initial value to the reduce method? It uses the first element of the array as the initial value. Check answer. Okay. Method. What is method chaining and how does it work? Method chaining is a technique where you call several methods one after another. Is a technique where you call several methods one after another. Okay. You can use method chaining on many types of values in JavaScript, including strings, arrays, and objects. Even though strings are primitive values, JavaScript temporarily wraps them in a string object when you use a string method. Let's look at an example using different string methods. Okay, trim to lowercase to replace, not replace, yeah. Console log result. Okay. Okay. This example, we start with a string and perform three operations in sequence. Trim, replace, okay. Each method returns a new string which becomes the target. Method chaining can significantly improve code readability when working with complex operations. For instance, consider the example using filter, map, and reduce method. Const, transactions, amount. Anyways, this is what I'm telling you. An array consists of several objects, and then we declare another variable, total credit with bonus, and we give it transactions that filter transaction, which is the array above that filter transaction. This is the value, the uh, argument, and then arrow transaction dot type. Transaction dot type. It's gonna give me the type equal credit. That's filtering. If it's equal credit, then it's gonna be filtered. So we got, and then we're gonna do the dot map just like we did in the strings, not dot map transaction. And then we're gonna take the transaction dot amount 1.1 multiplied by 1.1, and then we're gonna dot reduce some amount and then some plus amount, and the start. This is the accumulator and the other arguments. Okay, so you see how we did just transactions. We just put transactions there and then dot filter dot map dot reduce, and this is called the method chain. You don't have to write transactions dot filter and then declare another variable and then declare, you just lay it out. Okay. In this example, we have an array of transactions where each object has an amount and a credit card or cash type. We first filter through the transactions and create a new array of just credit card transactions. Then we chain the map method to the filtered results, and for each transaction amount we multiply it by 1.1, which represents 10%. So what does the map actually do? Ah, does an operation. Okay, the filter is such. Okay, while method chaining can make code more concise and readable, it's important to use it judiciously. Very long chains can become difficult to debug, as it's not immediately clear which step in the chain might be causing an issue. That's correct. It is often a good practice to break very long chains into multiple steps for better clarity and easier debugging. You know how we debug call to log. Okay. You can also chain methods on an object. In this case, each method returns this, which refers to the current object, allowing the next method in the chain to run on. Also, an object, in this case, each method returns this, which refers to the current subnet. Const got an object inside the object. Oh my god. This is, but this is a variable. What do you mean? This is an object, data, 0, this is an object, and then add n. This is a function inside the object. Okay? This dot total plus equal n. Return this. Yeah, we've been through this before. Multiply. Yeah, we've been through this. So this refers to this dot total, and okay. Yep, we've been through this. This way, each method returns the same object, so you can keep chaining calls one after another. What will be the output of the following code? String results string.trim lowercase split. So there's going to be no white space. To lowercase, it's going to be all lowercase, and to split, there's going to be there's going to be an array of hello and world. Okay. In the context of method chaining, what should a method typically return to allow further chaining? To allow further chaining. This. what will be the result of the following code? Let object, okay, increment function this value plus plus return this. So it's going to be 2 double, and then here it's going to be multiplied and equal to, which what is it going to take? Value again. If it's going to take value again, then it's going to be 2 again. So this is 2, this is 2, and get value function return this dot value function dot value. It's going to be what? Well, I guess it's 4 after all. Let results equal object dot increment, which is this one, dot double, which is this one, dot increment again. So it's gonna go 4 and then increment again, that's gonna be 5. Dot get value, results 5. Oh my god. Okay guys, how does the sort method work? There are many different ways to sort your data in programming. In this lesson, we will focus on the built-in sort. We also, I haven't used these built-in functions before or methods before, but I have been introduced to them through my TA, which is Claude. You know how I told you. I run my code after submitting it in Claude, seeing if there's gonna be any ways to optimize it, and Claude usually gives me these what we just studied, that map, that filter, uh, and sort. Okay, etc. Method in JavaScript. The sort method is used to arrange the elements of an array and returns a reference to the sorted array. No copy is made because the elements are sorted in place. Here's the basic syntax for the sort method. Array.sort compare function. The compare function is an optional parameter that specifies a function that defines the sort order. We will take a look later on how to use a compare function when sorting numbers. Sorting strings. In this first example, we have an array of strings in random order. We have an array of strings in random order. Const fruits, banana, orange, apple, mango. Our goal is to sort the array in alphabetical order. We can do this by calling the sort method on the fruits array. We can do this by calling the sort method on the fruits array. Sort okay. Sort fruits apple, banana, mango, orange. Alright, the result will be a sorted array of fruits in alphabetical order starting with the fruit apple. In the next example, we want to sort the following array of numbers, and this is what I was usually advised to use on numbers, sort on numbers. We will try sort numbers.sort. Number, how do you fruits.sort, numbers.sort 10, 12. But wait, there is a 3 here. 414, 5. What is that supposed to mean? If we try to use the sort method on this numbers array, we will get unexpected results. We expected to see the results, yep, but instead we got. This is because the sort method converts the elements to strings and then compares their sequence of UTF-16 code unit value. UTF-16 units are the numeric values that represent the characters in the string. Examples of UTF-16 code units are numbers 65, 66, which represents the characters A, B, and C respectively. So the number 200 appears before the number 3 in the array because the string 200 comes before the string 3, comparing their UTF-16 code units. The solution to this problem is to provide a compare function to the sort method. Here is an example of how to sort the numbers array using compare function. Same numbers.sort AB gives A minus B. What does this mean? So it's A, B, and arrow A minus B. What does it do? The parameter A and B are the two elements being compared. The compare function should return a negative value of A should come before B. Return a negative value of A should come before B, a positive value if A should come after B, and 0 if A and B are equal. The first comparison is between the numbers 14 and 200. The result is 214, which is a positive value. This means that one should come after 200 in the sorted array. The next comparison is between the numbers 200 and 5. This is actually a cool trick. Very cool trick. I could have used this. The next comparison is between the numbers 200 and 5. Out of 200 minus 5 is 190. This is positive. We repeat the process for all elements in the array, and the result is a sorted array of numbers. Handling unified. Did you get it? Sort A, B. Okay. Handling undefined values and empty slots. It's also important to understand how to sort method handles undefined values and empty slots in an array. When the sort method encounters an undefined value, it does not pass that value to the compare function. Instead, undefined values are automatically moved to the end of the array. Here is an example that shows how sort handles an array with undefined values. Okay, so you better use, if it's gonna mention it like here and you don't want it to be mentioned, you're just gonna have to use filter first. Okay, notice that undefined is placed at the end of the sorted array. Notice that undefined is placed at the end of the sorted array. It's placed at the end of the sorted array. After all the other elements. Similarly, when the sort method encounters an empty slot in a sparse array, it preserves that empty slot and moves it to the end of the array. Both undivided values and empty slots are present. Defined values will come first, followed by the empty slots at the very end. An example of the demonstrated. Now we don't need the example. Okay. Even though there are many more ways to sort data in programming, the sort method in JavaScript can be useful and efficient in a lot of cases when you need to sort an array of elements. What does the sort method? It creates a copy of an array, it sorts the copy, it sorts the elements of an array in place. It only sorts numbers, it sorts the element in descending order. Well, does it? I will go with copy. Why do numbers not sort as expected without comparing? Elements are compared as strings based on it. So, what should I compare when if A should come after B? What should a compare function return if A should come after B? A negative value. positive value. What's happening? Not source element. Okay. Oh my god. Told you this is a long theory session. How do the every and some methods work? When you're working with arrays in JavaScript, there are often times when you want to check if all elements in an array meet a certain condition or if at least one element meets a condition. This is where the vary and some methods come in handy. These methods are powerful tools that can simplify your code and make it more readable. It starts with the vary method. This method tests whether all elements in an array pass a test implemented by a provided function. In simple terms, it checks if every single item in your array satisfies a condition you specify. Every method returns true if the provided functions returns true for all elements in the array. If any element fails the test, the method immediately returns false and stops checking the remaining elements. Here's an example to illustrate how every works. Is all even numbers. Okay. Okay. In this example, we are checking if all numbers in the array are even. The function we provide to every checks if each number is divisible by 2 with no remainders will be true. Now let's look at some method. While every checks if all elements pass the test, some checks if at least one element passes the test. Some method returns true as soon as it finds an element that passes the test. If no elements pass the test, it returns one. An example of some. I don't see any use cases for this. In this example, we're checking whether any number in the array is even. The function we pass to some is even though most numbers. Okay, I don't need that. Both every and some are very useful when you need to validate or check a certain conditions in your array. They can often replace more verbose loops and conditional statements, making your code cleaner and more expressive. That's true. It's important to note that both methods stop executing as soon as they can determine the result for every. That means stops as soon as find false, and for some it stops as soon as find true. This can be beneficial for performance, especially with large arrays. What does every method return if an element satisfies the given condition? Wait, what? Okay. What does method empty? What does a sum method on an empty array will return? Oh, it's very false. Which method would you use to check if at least one element is greater than 10? So, okay. Well, that's it for today's theory. I'm gonna make sure to join along doing the build library manager. 18 steps only. That's gonna be easy in a few minutes. See ya.